In the last 5 years, the one I would focus on is that we're teaching diagnostic reasoning better. So we often spend a lot of time talking about diseases and not enough time teaching students how to make a diagnosis when a patient comes in with a symptom where the diagnosis isn't obvious. So what we've been trying to do is to incorporate that into the curriculum. During our course on disease, we begin to introduce how they should think about diagnostic reasoning. And I just took over the elective that occurs between the course on disease and their clerkships, where we teach them specifically for about 7 days straight about how to approach certain symptoms in a very organized and a specific way.
Excellent. How do you motivate faculty members at the University of Chicago to join your work to improve medical education here?
Well, as you know, a lot of the faculty members are motivated to do the work. They like to teach, they love to teach. One of the key issues is always providing time and support for them. So to the extent that we can get support from the leadership to buy out their time and protect them, then they're very engaged and want to do it. So I don't really think the issue is usually how do we motivate them. It's how do we give them the opportunity to do it is really the key issue.
What kinds of opportunities do you mean?
Well, if you want to talk about teaching in a course or lecturing to the students or any of a variety of opportunities where they can engage with the students more fully, they still need times to develop that. They need time to develop written materials, they need time to develop lectures, or more complex tools like the software that I've written or the books I've written. All of those take actually a lot of effort. And it can't always be done just at home at nighttime when they're free. They need time to work on that while they're here.
Excellent. How do you go about helping students and residents become lifelong learners?
I think that's a great question, right? How do we make people want to learn? I think it's making them excited about answering questions. A temptation of faculty is just to tell them what we think that they should know. And it's a very hard temptation to resist, as you know, because we know what we want them to understand. It's much better if we can ask them a question in a way and help them to find the answer on their own. If you do that, you've empowered them, right? So ask them a question, showing them how they might do a literature search to answer the question, or just helping them so carefully to find their way to the answer that they feel that they've discovered it through themselves rather than you having just answered the question.
Our faculty for IMEP are working on their own plans and projects in their institutions to address various problems in medical education. What advice would you give to them for how to go about implementing change within their medical schools? You've had a fair amount of experience in the China medical education system.
Implementing change is hard. People are comfortable with what they've done before. It's often very hard to take an existing curriculum, as you know better than anyone, and modify an existing curriculum. I think, as we've talked about before, leadership change starts at the top. There has to be buy-in from the very top leaders so that they provide the support that faculty need. I think faculty are often willing to think about new ways to approach problems, but the leadership has to be willing to support it, to provide the resources, and to reward and think that it's important. If the leadership only focuses on clinical productivity or research, the educators will not be encouraged to do more interesting things or innovative processes or things that make education better. If the leadership is engaged and says, we really believe education is important, and we're going to provide support, we're going to provide resources, we're going to reward educators, we're going to acknowledge them publicly, we're going to give them awards, we'll give them the financial support so that they feel like they're valued members of the community, then other people look up to them and they want to do it as well.
Excellent answers. Do you have other questions? Good applause.
Woohoo!
I guess one question that was also for the leaders, you were a leader. If you could just describe some of the resources that the University of Chicago has for faculty development. That's sort of what we're about with IMEP. How do we support our faculty to become better educators and lifelong learners?
So there's a variety of tools. So some of the things that we do is we literally have to provide time so that they have time to work on it, time where they're free from their clinical responsibilities. I said if you only did one thing, that would be the key thing, because without time, they really can't be done. But we have other structures in place. So we have the Academy of Medical Educators. That was modeled after Stanford. And Stanford realized that with all their focus on research, that they needed to elevate their educators in the eyes of their faculty members. So they have an Academy of Distinguished Medical Educators, where only people who have really developed some renown and expertise in this are elected to that academy. And so it's a way of recognizing that expertise. So we've developed such an academy here. I'm happy to say I was a founding member. We also have FAME, which is another program where various faculty members have created different structures at different times of the year to help faculty, whether it's with lecturing or giving feedback or wherever it might be, to help teach them, especially the more junior faculties, and some of the tools and techniques that they need to learn to be effective.
So is FAME a fellowship that lasts for the entire year?
I don't know that it's so I'm not really sure the answer to that question. I know that they have events on a semi-annual basis to train people, and there may be more to it than I'm aware of, to be frank.
I think that's awesome. You did it, you nailed it as usual.
Oh, well, thank you. I'll be back next week.
Much appreciated.